It was good, Rebel Militia. We have a very, very special guest today. We're going to break down, of course, OTAs. We're going to talk Raider football as always. But we have the preacher preaching that gospel, always talking that truth talk. My guy, the man, Raider Twuan, will be coming, preaching his gospel today for us. So make sure y'all pull up, show him some love. Without further ado, the preacher in the building, my guy, Raider Twuan.
Hey, what's good? How y'all doing? Blessings to everybody, man. I'm ready to talk some of this Raider football. Happy, wonderful weekend. I don't know what the weather is out there where you're at, but I just hope you guys are having a blessed weekend.
Preach that truth, man. It's a little cloudy and musty where we are, so humid as could be. Feel like everything's sticking to me, but we're gonna grind it out. We're gonna grind it out. I'm sure it's not. I'm sure it's not like them boys over there in Vegas with OTA. So I think I'll survive, right? I think
A-
I'll survive.
Absolutely, man.
But yeah, man, I appreciate you pulling up. It's been a minute. We've been live before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know I always forget, man. I'm 51. The brain doesn't work like it used to. So I know we've been on other things, but yeah, it's been a minute since we pulled up. So glad to have you, man. There's lots to talk about. There's all kinds of things going on with OTAs. With the quarterback talk, with the running back room and Ashton Genty and Mike Washington, right? The tight ends, the offensive line battles. So yeah, man, let's just get into it first off. OTAs, man. Who are your OTAs that you've been hearing about that you think are standing out? Could probably push some guys or make some noise so far.
You know, I think the biggest issue that we had, I think everybody in Raider Nation could agree with this. Our biggest issue was offensive line. So, anything that's rumbling from the offensive line, I'm definitely keeping a big eye on that. And that brings up one of the draft guys that we just drafted recently, which is Trey Zune the third. The versatility that he has, the multiple positions that he plays. He does have some limitations. Everybody's been talking about his short arms. We he was a center drafted classified as a guard, and what I've been hearing in OTAs is that he's playing a little tackle. You know what I'm saying? So and by the way, is right tackle. So, DJ Glaze is not glazing it up over there. You know what I'm saying, by himself. I think there's
The
definitely some competition,
Glazinator.
the competition there. So, Trey Zune is definitely a guy that this organization has earmarked and pinned in as a guy that they might want to bring in on game day. So yeah, definitely him.
Yeah, I like that battle over there. I've been one of those guys that have been preaching, right? You drafted Charles Grant to be that left tackle, right? He's had a year behind it. He's played pretty well, right? There's no reason to move him around. No reason to put him on the left. Let him battle DJ Glaze. Keep him over there, right? Let him learn. He's supposed to be, the heir apparent to Colton Miller. So there's no reason to jump guys around. But then when you're looking at this offensive line and in the Raiders, right? They want versatility. They preach versatility. They're drafting versatility. So if Charles Grant can't play the right side and the left side, then there's no versatility there. So I, I I guess I was wrong. I thought they was going to bring in Trey Zune and let him compete with DJ Glaze for that right side, and I was hoping that they would just keep Grant over there at the left side and let him be over there learn from Colton Miller. But that doesn't seem to be the case either. There's been reports that Grant's been playing right tackle, so now you got Charles Grant playing the right tackle, and you have to ask the question: is maybe Trey Zune the heir apparent to Colton Miller, right? You just said he don't have the arm length, but the average arm length, right, to play tackle is 34. He has 32 and a half. I mean, an inch and a half. Come on, what's an inch and a half, bro? Like,
Mm.
when you have the speed, the athleticism, the size, the physicality, right? You have that alpha male in you, that dog in you, whatever you want to call it, right? I don't think he'll have a problem playing tackle. And if they have him already, playing a little bit of right tackle, then obviously they believe he has, um, enough athleticism to play that position. In Kubiak's system, he loves to run that wide zone, to the outside and inside. So he fits, right? You can pull him. He can get to the next level. He's athletic, and as long as you're faster than the guy in front of you, and you can get your hands on him before he can get his hands on you, I don't think that inch and a half really matters. And so it seems like there's a lot more battles going on than we assumed, right? And then, what's your thoughts on Spencer Burford? Like, I've talked about it all year. I figured he was going to be that number one guy from the jump, just because Kubiak brought him in. He knows the 49ers and Kubiak's system, right? But he was never really a true starter over there. He was, a backup that moved around. So I find it, interesting that he's already, running with the ones. But do you think that lasts, right? You got guys like Jordan Meredith, you have JPJ, right? You have Caleb Rogers. Are we trying to go with the youth movement? Are we trying to go with the guy that was already being a backup somewhere else? Or is it just to try to teach the rest of the offensive line, the structure of what's going on, and just a guy to get that message across? Or do you think he's penciled in as a starter to start the season?
I think he is penciled in as a starter, and let me try to clarify that. I think with Burford, it's it's politics, and because of the timing, right? And I agree with you in regards to him teaching the scheme, you know what I'm saying? Because again, he came over because he knows this, he knows the scheme. He knows exactly what is expected in the way that we're trying to run the ball. So with that being said, we brought him in as a free agent, a veteran free agent, by the way. So that means we paid money for the likes of a Burford. Now, is Burford
3.5 mil.
the best guard? No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that he's an all pro guy. Well, you have politics. Am I going to start a guy that's been already on the roster, or am I going to start this guy that I paid for to come to this team? So depth wise, yeah, I when first depth roster looking at our offensive line, I assumed that Burford was going to take one of those spots. Now, does that necessarily mean that he's going to be there by the end of camp? I hope not. You know what I'm saying? I think Caleb Rogers needs to step up and take that spot. But until he takes, you know what I'm saying, takes the bull by the horns and grabs that spot, then Burford will be there. You know what I'm saying? And that's that. So I think there's some politics involved as to why Burford, is a starter. Because I don't think he is. If you ask me if he's a better guard than Caleb Rogers, I really don't think so. I
I
think
don't
that
think he's better. I don't think he's better than Jordan Meredith, to be honest.
Yeah. So that's why it all boils down to, yes, he's penciled in as a starter, but it's really his job to lose.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, is it maybe because they need Meredith with, he's one of the veterans in the. I mean, we don't have a lot of veteran offensive linemen, right? We have Colton Miller, we have, Burford, and then you have Meredith is pretty much the next oldest guy that we have, right, on the lineup. So maybe they're using Meredith on the twos to try to, help that younger class over there, trying to develop and, teach them how to line up, how to get set, right? How to block, make sure everybody's set and lined up, because he can play center, he can play left or right guard. So we know we have, a lot of right, a guy that can move around a lot of positions, and Jordan Meredith as well. So there's some people that are already writing him off and saying he doesn't make this team, but I just don't see that being a possibility, man. This guy was one of the top graded guards 2 years ago, right? With not even a great team then. We had Antonio Pierce as the head coach, right? We had Chip Kelly, or not Chip Kelly, but Luke Getzey as the offensive coordinator, and then it moved to the Turners, right? And he was graded at 80% tackling, rushing, and passing. top five. I mean, you don't go from being a top five to not knowing how to play football, right? In a
Mm.
year. It's because they tried to put him at center and messed everything up. So I feel like once they, I hope, I hope they get a chance and go back, which they're probably not, but the coaching staff is probably mostly watching film from last year and not watching, 2 years ago when a lot of these offensive linemen played very, very solid, including, DJ Glaze. He had his ups and downs, but for being a rookie at that time, thrown into the fire, he played well, as well. So I think there's a lot more battles, and we have a lot stronger offensive line than people are assuming.
Yeah, I think, and in regards to Meredith, I really think that they have him pinned as the backup center. And I think that's, he's running with like you said, he's running with the twos. Teaching the twos. You know what I'm saying? Kind of being the quarterback for the twos in regards to the offensive line. We already know Linderbaum is coming in and he's going to be making a lot of the offensive calls, for the offensive line for the ones. But now they have Meredith backing up. You know what I'm saying?
I don't mean to cut
Him.
you off, but I haven't had internet for 3 days, so I haven't really got to catch up on everything. It's been here and there. But do you know who was taking? Because they've had right three sets. They had the ones, the twos, and then the rookie group. So who's been the center for those? Do you know?
It's it. I well outside of Linderbaum, it's been Meredith at center.
And then Will Putnam.
Yeah,
Because I thought I seen a couple videos, but I thought they had Meredith at the right guard spot running with the twos
they
next
they,
to
they
next to
I
Trey
think
Zoom.
they swap a little bit of it of that,
But
but I think I
but
think
then
they
was
need.
is JPJ? He's running with the ones, so you know what I
Yeah.
mean. Like, I don't understand having. And my point is, I don't understand having Meredith as a backup center when that's not his spot. He plays solid at the left guard. He plays solid at the right guard. He struggled dramatically at the center position. Now you already got a guy that has experience in Will Putnam and JPJ. To me, those should be one of those should be the backup. They should be taking those spots, taking those reps at camp. Both of them, Will Putnam and JPJ, should be taking those reps and then and taking the guard reps as well. I feel because I just don't trust Jordan Meredith as a center. He played, he didn't
Mm,
play very, very well. And if you're telling me that's the backup center going in, and right now on the roster they have Will Putnam as the backup center.
mm,
It's Linderbaum and Meredith and Putnam as well. So, and then some rosters have Meredith as the backup left and right guard. So it just depends on whether it's ESPN, whether it's our lads or whatever. But nothing's penciled in stone. But I'm not comfortable with Meredith being that backup.
yeah. I and I think also I think this might hurt some people's feelings, but it got to be said. I think the JPJ at center is ran its course. I think they're really just wanting JPJ to be a guard. And as much as some people may feel like feel that JPJ should be center, you know, I don't think this organization feels that way in regards to him. I think they believe that he's a benefit. It will benefit him. It would benefit the team more if he was that guard.
Yeah, and you heard Trey Zoon talk about learning from Linderbaum, and he can't wait to learn from him at the center position. So it sounds to me like that Trey Zoon is going to be pretty much the backup center, the backup guard, and the backup tackle. Which I don't know, maybe not guard at all. Maybe he played center and he played over 3,000 snaps at the left tackle position in college, and he held his own against guys like Ruben Bain. Right, he held his own against damn now I'm drawing the lane. But a couple of good defensive edge guys. So he held his own there with the arm length, with not the arm length. Sometimes, like I said, those arms don't matter. But I haven't heard anything from my guy about him playing guard. It's been so far tackle. So um, you know, if you're going to play him at all positions, like they say, all five positions, you should see him throughout, right? The left guard, the right guard, playing a little bit of center with the twos, with the threes, or
Mm,
wherever they have them. You should see him at a lot of those spots going forward. And not a lot, not a lot of camp days left before they disappear for a while and come back into July. But Charles, not Charles Grant, but Caleb Rogers, right? You have Caleb Rogers as well.
mm.
Where does this young man fit in? Because it seems to me like he doesn't want to relinquish his job, as that starter, which he was at the end of the season as well. So now you have a guy that can also play both guard positions and a little bit of tackle too.
Yeah. I think Rogers is definitely going to be fighting for that Burford spot. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, it's really Burford's spot to lose. Job to lose at this point. But I think they need to see a little more out of Caleb Rogers before they, relinquish that spot to him. But that's what makes it competition, right? You want
Right.
guys to be fighting for spots. You don't want something automatically given to them. In regards to Trey Zune, I think because he has that versatility, that's going to help us on game day because you can't bring everybody on the roster to game day, and because Trey can play three different spots, that kind of saves you room for another position that you may necessarily need for that game, or that's just in general. Because it might be a game to game thing. We might need an extra corner against the Titans. We might need an extra line offensive line, we might need an extra D lineman, against the Chiefs, you know what I'm saying? So there might be, a lot of that movement going on, and that will probably be because, of Trey Zune being that pretty much the sixth man on the offensive line. Now I do hope that eventually Trey Zune gets into a place where he does become a starter, but at right now as a rookie, I think he'll be in his first year, he's going to be that sixth man for us.
I don't know why I can't see the chat, but shout out to everybody in the chat. 22 people rocking with us. Y'all make sure you go pull up on Raider Twuan's channel if you're not already over there. Give him a like, give him a subscribe. The Reverend in the building, trying to grow them subs, needs to get monetized, get to 1,000. So if y'all go over there, show some love, share to him. I can't read the chat. I'm on my phone again. I've been without internet for 3 days. I won't have internet again until Tuesday, so that's why I haven't been live for the last 2 days. But yeah, y'all go over there, show some love. Also, if you haven't already, hit that like button, show some love to the channel, subscribe if you like the content, if you're picking up what we're putting down, or disliking. Let me know why you dislike it. Leave a comment why you disliking it. But shout out to everybody in the building, man. I don't know why I can't see the chat. It's horrible.
You can't see it at all,
I can't see it at
or
all.
it's like small.
I put it up on the screen. It's super small, but usually I can see it on the side. So
You have a super chat. I can't click on it. You have a super chat from Faded Raider. You know what I'm saying? He gave out a
appreciate
good
you.
old Raiders. You know what I'm
Nice,
saying?
nice. Appreciate you.
Shout out to the 999. You know what I'm saying? Super chat from Faded Raider. Who else? Frank Weber is in the building. Good to see you, man. He said, "Good afternoon, fellas, gentlemen." What else can I quickly look at? Gabe is in the building. He said, "I am." Okay, he said he's an Eagles and Vikings fan. Okay,
Nice. Eagles and Vikings fan. That's an odd combination.
yeah,
You just go with whichever one's winning the most that year, or
yeah, and it's the same. It's the same conference too.
right?
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? That's the NFC.
Yeah, that's a weird combination. But shout out to my guy in the building. Shout out to everybody rocking with us. Appreciate y'all. Again, I can't see the chat. I don't know why. I don't have the internet anywhere in the house but on my phone, so I can't even pull it up on another phone to get it. But it is what it is, man. We'll rock through it. We'll bear with it.
If I see something, you know what I'm saying, if someone shoots a question or something, I'll try my best to catch it. You know.
Nice, nice. So, let's get to the next topic, man. The next topic is players making serious noise. Now, there's some guys out there. Let me put this up, see if it works. Bam. Well, that worked. Cool. Yeah. So, surprise players making serious noise, right? We heard Traden Stoops, because of the absence of Teron Johnson, has been moving around an awful lot. He's been playing that nickel spot, right? He's been playing that single high free safety role. So a guy that can play corner as well. So you can put him in the slot, right? You can put him at the strong safety. You can put him pretty much anywhere you need to in that backfield. The man seems to have it on lockdown. So a surprise for some people that thought it wasn't a good pick for the Raiders. In the second round, a lot of people wanted that defensive tackle and receiver, but mine is Traden Stooks. Hopefully he's out there surprising some people. But the real surprise for me is Cody Lindenberg. Cody Lindenberg out there grinding, right? He's getting, reps with N'Kobe Dean not being on the field because he had his wife's graduation they went to. So, he was, or I believe, wife, girlfriend, something, fiance. But anyways, he was at a graduation. So Cody Lindenberg been getting some time playing out there, next to Quay Walker, and we're looking pretty good from what I'm hearing, right? He looks faster, he looks stronger, he looks like he's playing faster, right? He knows what's going on. It looks like he's already bought into the system a little bit. So this is a guy that could surprise some people, right? The seventh round pick. A lot of people were like, "Oh, he's not going to make the roster last year." A lot of people thought he's not going to make the roster this year, but it's looking like he's up there making a little bit noise on the roster. And then the other one is the wide receiver group, all of them, right? Mostly Jack Bech. I've heard from Jack Bech. I heard that with Jalen Naylor not being out there was another absentee. So Jalen Naylor out there, Jack Bech. It seems like they have a plan for Jack Bech. They have a lot planned for this man, and he's up for the challenge. He's bigger. He looks a little bit faster and stronger. And Jack Bech, I think, is already surprising some people with the following year. Not just the coaching staff, but a lot of people are out there. And from what I heard, they're like, man, watch out for Jack Bech in this system. It's gonna be nasty with Kubiak, and he's a guy that doesn't drop a lot of balls, right? The big critic is he can't create separation, but I disagree. I disagree. I went back and watched every single target, all 29, more than once. And this man, he seems like he's open all the time. He's just constantly just, yo, I'm over here. I'm over here. Like, so when you got that in a Kubiak system, Jack Bech is going to have a tremendous, tremendous year this year. Whether it's playing at the X, when they're trips wide and he's that X guy on the side, or if he's in the slot, it doesn't matter where they put him. I think he's going to be a major problem. So that's my serious one, right? A lot of talk, a lot of hate from the nation, like, oh, you should have never drafted back in the second round, and I believe he's gonna turn some heads this year.
I like Jack Bech coming out of college. I think he is a good wide receiver. Now, not everybody's going to run a 4.25. You know what I'm saying? And everybody's not meant to run a 4.25. I think you got to have a good wide receiver room has variety, and I think with Jack Bech, he is definitely one of those good possession guys where if you're trying to get a first down, he's gonna make sure he gets you that first down. He has the body to not only you know what I'm saying box people out and catch the ball, but he's also has the versatility to his route running where he is friendly to the quarterback. So I'm looking for Jack Best to take a jump. I think it's going to be, and I'll say this, I don't think it's necessarily going to be a jump in his play. I think it's going to be a jump in the quarterback play that's going to make Jack
Fact.
Best be a better player. So with that being said, I don't think there's much, I don't think there's much. how can I say it? It's really not much I would say Jack Best really needs to improve on. I think Jack Best is really just who Jack Best is. I think what's going to, again, elevate his game is having better play at quarterback. So if we have Kirk Cousins or, you know what I'm saying, knock on wood, possibilities of Fernando Mendoza at some point, you know, if we have an elevation of quarterback play, I think Jack Best is definitely going to be an option because, again, with Kubiak being our wizard in regards to our offense, he's going to be making sure that these guys are getting schematically putting them in places that they are able to play in space. And Jack Best is a guy that does wonders in space. He is a guy. Again, he doesn't run a 4.25, but he also is a good guy that gets a lot of run, after the catch. So I'm excited to see what Jack Best does in year 2.
Doesn't he run a 4.56?
Yeah, I think he runs closer to a 4.5 than a 4.2.
I mean, bro, if you're running a 4.56, I mean, at that speed and that size, like I don't know if that's hit, and I can't look it up again. No internet. But
let me see if I can. Let me see if I can.
Even if it's a 4.6, I mean, 4.6 is pretty quick, bro. Like 4.6 is quick enough that if you get a step and a half on a 4.3 guy, you can pretty much outrun him, for 20, 30 yards. So that tip, 0.3 tenths of a second is not that huge of a deal, especially with a guy that, if you got a quarterback that can lead the receiver, right, get him some balls on the run. I think he'll be just fine. I think his route running is solid, and from what I hear, it's a lot better. For as big as Jack Best is, to be able to sink his hips and to be able to drop and plant his foot, his peg leg in the ground and make cuts and breaks like he does, for being the size of a tight end, I think is extremely underlooked for the value of Jack Best, in my opinion.
Yeah, he runs a 4.53.
Oh, so I mean, come on, bro, a 4.53. I mean, come on, what guys can you hang with? There's not too. I mean, there's a lot, but there's not a lot of corners that run 4.3. So if you're telling me your corner runs a 4.5 or a 4.44, I mean, come on, that we're talking a half a step. We're talking a half a step here. Like that's a half a step. So, and his catch radius is bigger than most corners. 99% of the corners he's going to be playing against, right? You have that catch radius. Then your strength is way stronger than most corners, most safeties. And he's got linebacker strength. I mean, the guy's a big man. So, yeah, I think Jack Best is going to be a problem. But next topic is, since you brought up the quarterbacks, let's just start it early, right? Fernando Mendoza. A lot of talks about, he's ready, could be ready. Is he going to play? Wait, let me stop showing this one. Oh. No, hide, not hide. Sweet. So, a lot of talks. Is he going to play? When's he going to play? Is he going to play this year? But there's a lot of noise going around that, he's turning a lot of heads early. He's way ahead of schedule, right? We heard our coach say he's exactly as advertised, which I don't know what that means because he's been advertised as a guy that shouldn't have been a first-round pick, right? A guy that can't take snaps from under center. So I don't know exactly how to take that exactly as advertised, right? A guy that is not ready to start yet, right? A lot of questions going on. But the one thing, and I've been that guy saying Tom Brady is the major voice, right? He's the biggest voice in the building. What Tom Brady says goes. But I think I might be wrong on this subject. I think I'm starting to change my mind. Spytech said something in his last interview that was very, very interesting, and I'm very observant when it comes to, the small things. And he said, when asked about Fernando Mendoza and is he ready, and he said, well, I think that would have been a question for Andrew Janoko that you had on before me, right? When does he and the offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, right, whatever, when does he and Kubiak feel like Fernando Mendoza is ready? And I think just those couple words right there changed the whole trajectory of how this offseason can go and who can end up being the starter day one or even as early as, week 3 when some people think it's not going to be till week 13 in the bye week, right? It could be a lot earlier than that, and it could be way earlier than that because many people are believing that Tom Brady says he sits, he sits. But Spytech said you have to ask Andrew Janoko and Kubiak for when they feel he's ready to go. And I think that shifted the whole power presence of maybe our head coach Clint Kubiak took this job and has a lot more authority and power in this building with this roster than a lot of people believe, right? Tom Brady's not going to be here every day. He's got his own gig going on, right? He's going to have to start getting ready for football. He's going to have to start getting ready for doing games and all that. So he's not going to be ready. And then there's stipulations on where, how much he can be involved in the Raiders once the season starts and he's doing his Fox gig. So I really feel like he said, it comes down to, if the coach thinks he's ready, then he might start day one. But Kubiak and Kirk Cousins have that little bond together, right? They play together. That's why he brought him in. In a perfect world, you have a guy, right? A more mature guy, like he said, that could start for a couple games until your guy is ready. And I think right now we have that perfect world. What do you think?
I think I've given this title to Tom Brady. I call him Mr. Telephone Man. You know what I'm saying? Because obviously he's not in the building. He's managing from his telephone, and I say this publicly, and I really do mean it. If you could tell me I could be the president of football operations and be on the telephone, you know what I'm saying, please let me sign up for that job, because I didn't know that being the president of football operations was a remote position.
Well, you don't have 7 Super Bowl rings, so I think there's a big difference there.
You know what I'm saying?
When you have 7 Super Bowl rings, I think you get to do a lot more shit than other people get to do. I'm just saying. I think you got a lot more clout.
Yeah, I think just going back to the original thought, I think even with Tom Brady, I think Tom Brady has already made it clear, like, yeah, I prefer that Mendoza sits, but I really pretty much Kubiak, Janoko, since you guys are going to be working with this guy, and Janoko is really working with Fernando. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's a lot of reports that Janoko is, pretty much at this point, kind of holding Mendoza's hand, guiding him through the process. So it's going to be, again, and Kubiak's probably waiting on Janoko in the same way of like, hey, Janoko, how you feeling about the room? You know what I'm saying? And he's probably saying, hey, at this point, Cousins is it. You know what I'm saying? At this point, I think Aiden is also, is also ready to go. I'm still working with, Fernando right now. And then, Kubiak might come back later on, you know what I'm saying, at the end of preseason and say, hey, Janoko, how you feeling? And then he might give him another, assessment of where, things are. But right now, I think they're both confident in, allowing the process to take its course. I don't think they're in a position where they're in a rush to bring out Mendoza. Why? Because I think their job is secure. I don't think they have to worry about, oh, we need to pull out Mendoza just to keep our job. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think they're okay, you know what I'm saying, and confident in their position as at their job, but also confident in letting Mendoza get everything that he needs so that when he is ready to go, there's no ifs, ands, or buts that he is the franchise guy that we have for our team.
I agree. There's no panic. There's no panic button. You can let Coach Haynes go out there and do his thing for the first couple of games. And if he struggles and the kid's still not ready, then you throw Aiden out there for a game or two until Mendoza's ready and see what he has, right? And between two of them, somebody's got to click. But if both of them just go out there and struggle, then you have to question: is it the team, right? Is it the offensive line? Is it the receiver core that we have? Is it the pressure? We can't get a run game going with two solid running backs, a 6th overall pick. what are going to be the problems, right? Is it the defense? Is the defense just giving up too many points and the offense can't keep up? Because that seems to be the norm as of late, right? The,
Yeah,
the the other team score way too many points, and our offense, can't score enough to keep up. But I think we should score a lot more points and be up there point
I think.
wise. And I
Well,
feel like it's just a whole new direction with having that luxury of, man, we could play this guy day one and go out there if we feel this team's ready, or we have a veteran quarterback that's averaged 3,800 yards, I think, a season through his career, right? He's got what, 5 or 6 4,000 yard seasons. So a guy that can go out there, that can hold down the ship, steer it in the right direction. But you have to question his age, man, at 38 years old. When you look at Aaron Rodgers play last year, it's just rough, right? You look at Joe
mm,
Flacco play. He still got the arm, but the movement, right? The decision making, it's just rough. Kirk Cousins hasn't played as much as they played in the last 2 years. So you have to question that. And then, my biggest thing is, if he's not the guy, who is, right? If he's not the guy early and you're like, okay, man, like, this team seems to be pretty good. We have a running game, right? The defense is pretty solid, but the quarterback's just not cutting it. Which way do you go, right? Do you throw the kid out there if you think he's not ready, or do you keep Aiden and throw him out there for a couple games?
I think two things. Well, I think the next person in line, if Cousins ain't it, is going to be AOC. And I think in regards to Mendoza, I think two things have to go. It has to be the perfect storm. And when I say perfect storm, I'm going to break it down to you. It's going to have to be the
Great.
perfect storm. It's going to have to be that Mendoza's ready, but also the team is ready. You know what I'm saying? If there's a situation where Kirk Cousins is sneaking it up, but we're realizing that the offensive line still sucks, and you know what I'm saying, we realize that the pass catchers ain't doing what they need to do, then it's not going to happen. It has to be that the offense, primarily the offensive line, the pass catchers, we can just, okay, they suck. We're just gonna have to deal with it. You know what I'm saying? But if that O line, pretty much the protection for our franchise guy is not good, then you're not. We should not put our franchise guy out there to get hurt, because again,
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing is this guy is going, this rookie player is still trying to figure things out. You're gonna have this guy trying to figure things out, and he's not protected. You're pretty much trying to kill him. So you don't want to do that. So it's gonna have, in my opinion, it's going to have to be the perfect storm. It's going to have to be Mendoza is actually that, whatever test that they had to show that Mendoza's ready. He's a stat. But then you look at the supporting cast, which is primarily the offensive line. If that's not set and good to go, yeah, then don't put him out there. I rather you kill Cousins, and then the next person you kill is AOC.
Right.
Because
See, my
at least they've been through situations where they've dealt with bad lines. Obviously, we know Aiden dealt with a bad line. Cousins is a veteran. He should be his experience can tell you that he's had some. You know what I'm saying? He's
yeah.
dealt with some bad
I mean,
lines. So
he hasn't had
let
no. He
those
doesn't
guys
have no
figure it
offense.
out.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say let the veterans figure it out for Mendoza. You know what I'm saying? So that when Mendoza comes in, he's comfortable. We
Right.
we
And
want it as perfect and comfortable as it can be for our franchise player.
right, all fluffy with pillows. Yeah, you want to make
All
it
of that.
nice, smooth transition. But I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go in a different direction, right? I
Okay.
feel like, and you said the team, but I'm not. I'm not so much as worried about the offense with Fernando Mendoza, right? I'm worried about the defense. We
Okay.
don't know what the defense has, right? Because this offense can go up and maybe they go down and score every time, right? A field goal or a touchdown. But then you have a defense that, you're just in shootout game after game after game with a rookie. That's a lot of snaps. That's a lot of reps, or even with Kirk Cousins, right? Whoever it is. So if you look at why Caleb Rogers succeeded once Ben Rogers got there, yes, it was the O line, but it was their defense. Their
Mhm.
defense got them the ball back. Their defense, right, got them a lot more reps. Then, yeah, their offensive line was okay, but their running game, right? Their running game was solid. I mean, they got a young rookie running back that came in there and just started taking reps and making noise. So they had two solid running backs, which we have. So I feel like if you look at the Denver Broncos, right, when Bo Nix got in there, why was Bo Nix succeeding? Yes, the offensive line, but if you actually look at the offense, their offensive line wasn't great. He moved off his spot and and ad libbed and made plays over and over and over again for Bo Nix. He's mobile enough to to do that. He keeps his eyes downfield, but they're biggest reason they made the playoffs was their defense. It wasn't their offense, right? It wasn't their offensive line, their receiving core, their rushing. It was their defense. They have the best defense in football, or top five throughout the whole entire year. So if you look at a lot of these young guys and these young rookies that come in and succeed, I mean, same thing. You look at the Patriots, right? Drake May wasn't great when he came in his rookie year, but either was their defense. Their defense was horrible. But the following year, that defense, was top 10 in the NFL, or top whatever 12 they were for a while, right? Um, and it made him better, right? The more possessions your quarterback gets, the more time they can run out the clock and run the ball and move the ball. So I feel like that's a big question for us now. I know Rob Leonard is. I think he's up for the job. Some people have questions, but if this defense struggles early, that's going to be rough on whoever the quarterback is, whether it's Cousins or Fernando. So I think that's another reason why you want to, at least give it, 5 weeks somewhere, 6 weeks. So, when I made my record prediction, I said the Jets. I said the Jets would be a perfect game. You come in, you play the Jets, right? You get a little bit going, and then the next you have to go to the San Francisco 49ers and then Seattle. So, I think that wouldn't be too bad if the team was struggling. But where do you see, you know, if the team's struggling off the rip, and like what would be a good game? Because looking at this roster, there's not, November, ouch, December. You know what I mean? Like you're playing playoff team after playoff team after playoff team. Where do you pull the plug and throw this man out there if he's not ready, right?
I mean, and that's why again, it all boils down to if he's ready, and then if the team is ready to support him. And I think it comes down to that week 13. I think that week 13 gives us an indication of where we are. You know what I'm saying? Are we somewhere close to the neighborhood where we can get a wild card, or are we, you know what I'm saying, are we pretty much out of any playoff implications? And from there, that's when you want to play your younger guys. That's when you want to see what you ultimately have. And I think Kubiak ultimately still, I think this year is that in its totality. I think this is a preseason season for Kubiak. I think Kubiak doesn't fully have everybody that he wants on this roster. I don't think he has everybody that completely fits his scheme on this roster. So he's going to be trying to interview everybody that's currently on the team to get ultimately what he wants, you know what I'm saying, for this team. So I think that week 13, it works for us. It's later in the season. I know that sucks for a team, a regular team that has their quarterback, but in this situation, I think that might be the perfect time to bring in your quarterback. That gives you 2 weeks, you know what I'm saying, of preparation for the rest of the season. You know what I'm saying? Because again, your bye week, you have 1 week, then the you know what I'm saying, you pretty much have 2 weeks until you play again. So with that being said, if they see where our numbers are, Hey, Fernando, I think you're ready to go. Let's just say he's ready to go at that time. Okay, you're ready to go. We're gonna get you prepared for, week four. What is it? Week 13, week 14. Yeah, week 14, and we're gonna roll this out. I think you got. Let's see how many wins you can get. You starting off with, you got 5 games. Let's see if you can go 5-0. Let's see you push that. You know what I'm saying? And give him that competition. Yeah, he's gonna run into, what I'm saying, the Chiefs. Yeah, he's gonna run into the Chargers. I'm trying to remember the games that are at the end of the year. I know they play the Cardinals, which should be an easier game to get through. But definitely we're playing the Chargers and the Chiefs, okay? And we know those are definitely going to be competition, worthy games. So let's see what you do in our division as a young rook, you know what I'm saying? But it all, again, for me, it all is predicated on if that offensive line is good. And I'm cool with that. Pretty much the offensive line, if the offensive line is good to protect him, and then if he has checked off everything that he needed to check off with Janoko. That's the only way that I want to see him week 13.
So going from that, you're saying week 13, but let me ask you this: like you're saying, if the offensive line is good and ready to go, so what if there's a scenario where we come out hot, beat the Dolphins, beat the Chargers, beat the Saints, beat the Chiefs,
Mm,
and then you have a gauntlet where you have the Patriots, the Bills. Um, I don't know the whole schedule off the top of my head, but
yeah,
Patriots, Bills, I do believe Rams,
yeah,
Jets, and then 49ers, something like that.
something like that. You sound pretty good on that, man.
Yeah, so yeah, but you have that hard stretch. So what if you come out there and come out hot? Are you looking at Kirk Cousins and being like, man, I know you're doing well, but this team is a lot ahead. Oh, a lot more ahead of schedule. Our defense is on fire, right? The offensive line looks good. We have, receivers are doing their job, right? We got guys making plays in Brock Bowers, Jack Best, Trey Tucker, which we'll get to Trey Tucker in a minute. I think he has a chance to just have a crazy year and do something in history that a lot of people haven't done at his size. So, but then you got, that all that going, and you're like, man, Fernando was better from the jump. And at the beginning, he was the best guy out there, but we just wanted to make sure the team was ready, right? How's that? Like, do you pull the plug on a Kirk Cousins if you're 4-0 and the team looks a lot better than you thought and go with the young man, or you just ride it out?
I know I got some background, but you write it out. You roll with Kirk Cousins. Let him cook until, what I'm saying, the stove gets cold. And that's how you run it. Look, if Kirk Cousins is killing it and spinning it, and we making our way to the playoffs, I'm not changing anything.
No, I'm saying if he's okay, just mid, right? He's not the reason we're winning. If it's the run game's on fire, we're getting big plays from Genty, big plays from Washington, right? The defense is giving us the short side of the field where where he doesn't have to do too much, and it's not really all the quarterback. It's basically the team, is firing on all cylinders, and you have this bright shiny new toy over there that I mean, what better chance to put him out there when the team is good, right? You want to put him out there when the team is good, not when it starts to struggle.
No, I get that, and that might be a situation where, again, it's going to be coming down to this coaching staff to feel like they're completely 100% comfortable. They're not just putting them out there because they're trying to sell jerseys and tickets. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it's really a situation where everything is right, and he's right, then yeah, then go ahead and make that move, because ultimately that's what Cousins came in here to do. He came in here to hold it down until Mendoza was right. So if that's the situation, then you might want to make that, then go ahead, and you can go ahead and do that. Again, like I said, that perfect storm. The team is good, and then Mendoza checked off everything that he needs to check off. It's not a situation where we're trying to sell more popcorn and sell more sodas. We need to get past that. We need to make sure that this quarterback is good.
Yeah, I feel like we have a whole bunch of players now with Genty and Washington and Brock Bowers. Like we have enough players to sell tickets, right? If McCoy, which looks like he's going to go, we'll talk about that in a minute, right? I feel like there's plenty of guys out there. JPJ, I mean, we have enough guys to sell jerseys and to get bodies in the seats. But let me ask you this question, right? So as soon as the schedule dropped, it looked like a lot of season ticket holders are, people that just buy the season ticket holders to sell them or whatever. But a lot of them started dumping off their tickets, once they seen, who we had to play in the schedule. You think there's going to be some upset season ticket holders this season on some of those games? What is your chances of us, winning some of those home games and shocking some of these teams?
I think honestly they've been making, obviously right now the season ticket holders, they're trying to make as much money as they can. So whatever is going to make money for them, they're going to do regardless. I think there's going to be some home games that are going to be winnable, but this season for us, and especially where our team is, in my opinion, it's going to be rough regardless.
Okay, so saying that, you think this team is what the record was last year, right? 4-13. That we're that bad of a team.
I think we'll be somewhere in that neighborhood. I think we'll be a little better. I think it might be a game or two improvement. I think ultimately we're going to play way better football than what we did last year. So that's ultimately what I'm looking for, is that we're actually playing a better brand of football. But because our team, again, you have your offensive side of the ball who's is implementing a new scheme, and then you have Rob Leonard who's an old face, but he's implementing a new scheme. So you have two sides of the ball that are implementing new schemes against teams that have been, pretty much running the same stuff and probably on their second and third installs. So that's what we're running into when you're running into teams like the Bills, the Rams, what I'm saying, even the Niners, what I'm saying? So again, I think we're just going to run into a couple more, uh, pretty much the same season, probably a little more wins, but I think a little more, it'd be more competitive, this season than what we saw last year.
I think coaching wins football games, right? And I look at the teams like the Patriots. I look at the teams like the Chicago Bears. They got a new coach. They brought in a new defensive scheme. They brought a new offensive scheme, right? The Bears did. The Patriots did. Those teams were, in the playoffs the following year. So, this roster and those teams also went and spent money in free agency. They went and spent a lot of money in free agency. We spent the most in free agency this year, I do believe, at least top three. I think that changes a lot of things. I believe the coaching has been bad, drastically bad, for a long, long time. And you have players in the building that know they have a coach that is a lot better than what they have, when he was hired. And now that he's in the building, they see, all right, this guy is all business. He's all ball. And, if we just get behind him and listen to him, this is a lot better team, right? We lost by a field goal to the Chicago Bears, a game we should have won, right? Our defense let us down. They came to kick the field goal, right? That team went to the playoffs. I mean, that team went deep in the playoffs. We also beat the Patriots the first game of the season. That team went to the Super Bowl, right? We had the Jags where we should have won that game. Jacksonville. We should have beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. They were in the playoffs. The Houston Texans. Ashton Genty had one of his best games against the Houston Texans. They were also in the playoffs. So that's four teams that, just one play changes the whole thing. And then you take away the fact that we had a quarterback that threw 17 interceptions to 18 touchdowns, right? You throw in the fact that we had 62 sacks. You throw in the fact that we had a running back that 80% of his yards were after contact, and he ran for 975 yards. I think all those things is what leads bad teams to good teams next year, right? We have the players, we just didn't have the coaching. And now we have the coaching. And I know they got to put it all together on the grass, but you have a lot of hungry guys that have been tired and tired of losing these close games, of getting beat out, 0-31. And now they have a little bit of belief that, hey, this coach knows what he's doing. He just won a Super Bowl. He brought guys with him that he's had with him for, a bunch of different stops, right? They know how to get the best out of these guys. They're teaching, which they haven't been teaching, right? We didn't have that with Antonio Pierce and those guys. Yes, they were teaching, but not to the aspect that they're teaching now. So I think you throw in all those things. You look at the offensive line and how they moved the center to guard and a guard to center, and started moving all these people around. And you're bringing in Tyler Lockett that's taking snaps away from Thornton and Jack Besh, and you put all that together, and I don't see us just being, we win one more game because of that, right? We're not. It's not like we were a horrible team. We were a bad coach team. We were a bad offensive line team. We were a pretty bad defensive line team, right? With Max in and out of the lineup. You know, being hurt in the first week and not being 100%. You have that. So, right, we have a lot of different things. You also have the fact that, I said all year Patrick Graham was being handcuffed and wasn't getting, to run his defense. And now the reports come out, right, from Hondo that, Patrick Graham maybe coached 3 games that he got to run himself. The rest was Patrick Graham. You take away that. You take away the fact that the last 2 years we've had 2 offensive coordinators, 2 offensive line coaches, right? 2 head coaches. You take away all that and you give them stability for an entire offseason, and knowing that this dude is going to be here next year, right? Knowing that no matter what happens, Kubiak's going to be in the building for a minute, right? Spytek's going to be in the building in a minute. And I think you take all that, and you can't tell me that we win 4 or 5 games this year. Even looking at our schedule, right? You got an offensive structure that's a winning formula. Not only a winning formula, but it took a 18th overall offense to the number 1 offense in the NFL last year. That was Clint Kubiak, right? That wasn't Coach McDonald. That wasn't Mike McDonald. That was, he's the head coach, but this was his offense, right? He also took a rookie and put him, from to the guard position and ran with him all year, and just 2 pieces changed around on the offensive line. That offensive line was a different offensive line, right? I think we're going to have more than 2 pieces changed around on our offensive line. You look at the fact that Jackson Smith and Njigba went from, not even seven or just around 700 yards or a little over to 1,700 yards the following season. You look at how he elevated where Seattle was to where they were when he left in 1 year, right? And now he's not only the offensive coordinator, but now he's the head coach. So now he has to say in the special teams, the defense, the offense, right? And now he gets to run not only the offense how he wants to, but the whole entire team how he wants to. And I think that pushes us just a lot better than people are giving us credit for. I keep hearing the same thing, like, oh, we're going to have a stable quarterback and we're going to have a better running game. So how do we only win one more game? To me, that, all these teams are going to have the same thing. There's a lot of these teams we're playing with new coaches, with new defensive coaches, with new quarterbacks, right? With new everything. I mean, we played the Miami Dolphins. They have a whole new entire team. They got rid of Tyreek Hill. They got a new quarterback. They got rid of Waddle to Denver, right? All these teams move around. Some get better, some get worse. Some have injuries before you play them. So, to me, if we don't win 6 games, to me, that's a fail. You bring in the, the most looked after coach in this offseason, besides, some of the guys like Harbaugh that had jobs instantly, right? But the most sought after coach was pretty much Kubiak, definitely after he won the Super Bowl, or was, what he did in the playoffs. So you bring all that in. You bring in an offensive line coach that everywhere he's went, his running back room is devastating. He hasn't had an Ashton Genty and a Mike Washington and a Connor Hayward as a fullback. We actually have a fullback to get hit before Ashton Genty gets hit, even if the offensive line is not solid. And I think you add all those things into the mix, and this team is a team that is going to compete, like you said, with a lot of teams. And if we're competitive, you know what happens when you're competitive? Once in a while, the ball bounces your way, right? Once in a while, that fumble lands your way. Once in a while, that missed field goal goes in your favor, right? those things start to happen. And then you're the preacher man, right? When you have faith in the building, like Clint Kubiak, when you have faith in the building, like Aiden O'Connell, when you have faith in the building, like Kirk Cousins, when you have faith in the building, like Mendoza, all these guys are faith driven, God fearing Christian, Catholic, whatever they are. But when you put all that in the mix, you don't think we have just a little bit possible, luck on our side for one season that we can actually win more than 5 games?
No, I think everything you said is valid. It could be that, what do we say all the time? It's any given Sunday, and that can definitely, what I'm saying, fall into play. But again, my mindset for our team is just us being more competitive than what we were last year. You know what I'm saying? And actually looking like we're playing football. And again, like you talked about Kubiak, but there is also questions, like you said earlier. There's questions about our defense. We keep talking about this 3-4, what I'm saying, base 3-4, that might be a 4-3, and then it might be a 5-2, 5-2-4 on the back end. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of things that need to be answered in regards to you know Rob Leonard. So yeah, there's question marks, but who knows? Honestly, who knows?
And that's another thing, like you just said, right? That you don't know if this defense is going to be, a 5-2 or 3-4, and that's the element of surprise, right? So you're looking at the first couple games, right? I mean, nobody knows what's going on. You're going to have preseason tape, but they're not going to show what they're running in preseason. I believe there's, smart enough guys in the building to not show their hand, so to say, no fun, pun intended, because we're in Vegas, but um, they're not going to go out there and show what they're going to run on defense. And a lot of people are overlooking the fact that, the buildings that Rob Leonard has been in, the defensive coaching room, right? The guys that he's been around Belichick, he's been around Flores, right? He's been around Patrick Graham, he's been around Mike McDonald, he's been around these defensive driven defensive minds. Their defenses are all top in the NFL, and you're going to take all of that and mix it up into a modern, younger, 38-year-old defensive coordinator that is a Raider. Everything he says is a Raider, right? He said, go watch his interviews, right? I feel like I'm meant to be a Raider. I have that mentality. So you bring all that and you unleash it on the defense. No pun intended there either, but you right. You unleash it on this defense, and you have pieces like Max Crosby that you can stunt, that you can put on the outside, that you can put at the inside. I mean, dude, you can even put Max Crosby at the Mike linebacker if you wanted. We have enough guys in Twitty Payne and you know um, Crawford and Alobi and all these guys, right? You have Quay Walker. You can also move around and put out there. Like I think we just have way more pieces than we've had in the past, and then you bring in good coaching on top of that, and I just don't see a scenario where this team is not competitive, right? I have us going, splitting the division. I think we can. We've proven, with bad coaching and Aiden O'Connell that we could beat the Chiefs, that we could put up, 4 touchdowns in the first half against the Chargers defense, right? So, we've shown that we can be competitive. We beat the Broncos for 4 years straight with bad coaching, even with Sean Payton in the building. So, we've showed that we can beat these teams. And then my biggest thing is our head coach, right? Clint Kubiak. He played the 49ers twice. We played the 49ers. He played the Rams twice. We played the Rams. He played Seattle twice, or he was, the coach of Seattle, but he played the Cardinals twice. We played the Cardinals, right? They gave us the NFC West. Nobody has more experience last year playing the NFC West than Clint Kubiak. Not only did he play each one of those teams twice and was the offensive coordinator of Seattle, but he also played the Rams and the 49ers in the playoffs. So he played the Rams 3 times, the 49ers 3 times. We played the Rams right at home and we played the 49ers there. I think that gives us a huge advantage over our coaching that we've had going into these teams before, right? He knows not only Kyle Shanahan, but he also coached with Kyle Shanahan. So now you played him 3 times last year and know what they're trying to do, how they're trying to do it, right? How he thinks because you've been in the building, you were an offensive coordinator, so you know what he thinks on offense. Also, you go play Mike McDonald, you know how he thinks. You know how he thinks on defense. You were in the building. I think these gives us a leg up, and I think they actually helped us with this roster, giving us the NFC West because nobody has more experience in the NFC West than our head coach. And then you have the division that, Robbie Leonard's been around for 4 years. So he knows exactly what they're trying to do on defense and on offense as well in the division. So I think, a lot of those games could be some sleeper games that people are overlooking. You're muted.
No, I think so. We definitely are able to. We might be able to surprise a few of these teams. So I think they're also sleeping on us too. You know, and honestly, I ain't gonna lie to you. Like I probably would sleep on us too. You know what I'm saying? A 3-14 team coming in, like you know what I'm saying? Like I'd be like, nah, this is gonna be easy. Easy, and then all of a sudden we mess around and hit him in the mouth.
Well, man, I hope that's the case. I hope that these teams are, overlooking them like a lot of Raider Nation fans are overlooking this team. They just think, it's a rebuild, and just because Spytech said it's a rebuild, that it has to be a rebuild, and there's no way that we can win games in the first year of the season. I think that's just a myth that needs to be broken. There's just so many teams that go from good to bad. It's every single year. There's 2 or 3 teams that go from worst to first, or from worst to the top 5 or top 10, or become playoff teams in the bottom of the division. Like we've seen it with the Patriots, we've seen it with the Carolina Panthers. I mean, we've seen it with the Texans, right? We've seen all these teams get one piece or 2 pieces. I mean, the Houston Texans, they got their quarterback and a defensive piece, and they've been in the playoffs every single year since then, right? With that rookie quarterback. So I just don't feel like this team is as far as people believe. Again, with the young talent, right? We've had a lot of draft picks with first round picks. We've had a lot of off seasons and OTAs where we've picked a lot of guys that have stuck around and they've kept for 2 or 3 years. So those guys are developing, they're getting better, and I just feel like yeah, I just feel like I hope they're looking at us thinking like you think we're a 4-13 team, because if they do that, shit, we could end up 17-0. Because if you come in looking at this team like, oh, we're the same team that we were last year or the year before, teams are going to be in for a wild, wild surprise.
And I'm here for it. You know what I'm saying? Get ready for me during the season because I will be talking about the players that played well, but I'll also be talking about the players that didn't.
Right. So speaking of that, let's get into Twan's favorite subject: who ate the brown crackers. Right. There's some roster cut guys on the bubble, guys in danger. Who are your guys that you see eating the brown crackers right now, pushing some of these bubble guys or danger guys, deeper in danger?
I think we already talked about one. I think Caleb Rogers is going to push Burford somewhere. I don't know if it's going to be off the roster. I don't know if Burford's just going to be end up being the backup. But I think Caleb Rogers is definitely one of those guys offensively that's going to push for for a spot. Now, the linebackers is going to be interesting because I have you talked about Lindenberg, but I'm looking at Eichenberg. I'm looking at
Okay.
Eichenberg to make a push for that linebacking spot because again, there's not that much. Let's be honest. There's not that much talent in the linebacking room outside of Quay Walker and the Kobe Dean.
And they can't
Really,
stay healthy.
yeah. And that's the biggest issue is that those guys, especially Kobe Dean, he has health issues. So we got knock on wood if you with me. we got to stay healthy at the linebacker position.
Yeah, I feel like we got to stay healthy at every position. That's been a major problem over the last couple of years. But, um, I'm looking at a lot of guys, right? I think Dekamarion Richardson is, getting closer and closer to walking the plank. I think he's in the middle of the plank right now, a couple steps away. Um, and then you got to look at the defensive line, right? Do they keep guys like Adam Butler, who's about to make what, $5-6 million, I do believe, this season, right? Do they keep him, or do they let him go and go with the youth movement and keep some of these younger guys that they brought in? Because right, there's guys like Antonio Mafi, JJ Pegues, Jafari Harvey, right? There's some of these guys that you know could maybe make a push. Jonah Laulu could take that next step. They drafted Cleveland in the 7th round, right? They went and got another one or two, I think, in the offseason. I don't have my roster in front of me again, but so there's a lot of guys that they brought in on this defensive line. So I feel like guys like Adam Butler, if he doesn't have a great camp, right, and some of these guys show out, I feel like he's one that could be on that bubble. And then your guy that you brought up, Tommy Eichenberg, right? If he doesn't, go and stand out and kind of do something in this camp and um, in the preseason, I think he's another guy that they might look to go get one of these guys June 1st. Some of these June 1st cuts coming up very soon, right? In a couple of days. So there's going to be some of those guys out there. And then you also were first on the waiver wire for the first 3 weeks of the season. So, you're going to be number one when the waiver wire hits. So maybe you can get some linebackers that way. So I feel like um, some of those guys, he wasn't drafted by Spytech, is why I say that, right? Cody Lindenberg is a Spytech draft pick, right? If you're looking at the roster and the guys that have been moved on and been, let go or pushed aside, they've been, drafted from the other regimes, not Spytech's guys, right? So I feel like you have that situation where you got to look at Tommy Eichenberg and say, if you're not doing something and standing out, that I don't think it's this year because we don't have a whole deep class. We have Xavier Sori and then um, the McCown guy that we brought in, right? But not a deep class when it comes to linebackers. So if it's not, I think you got to do something to keep your job definitely during the season, but probably the preseason, I think, for Tommy Eichenberg, because again, if some of these, guys get let go that they think can help this team earlier, I wouldn't be surprised if they pull the trigger on a lot of players that were, drafted former regime, and another one being Dylan Labe, right? Dylan Labe not drafted here. Um, they brought in Himby, right, as a UDFA. I think he brings a lot more to the table than just special teams. But are they willing to play him at special teams, and how much do they need Labe at special teams?
Yeah, I'm glad you talked about the secondary because that was another one that just the secondary in itself. Obviously, Spytech felt the same way because he flooded the secondary. You know what I'm saying, in the draft. So everybody that was currently on the roster before the draft at secondary, you're put on notice. Power Mal, look, it may not be this year, but next year you might be up out of here because again, with Dalton Johnson and Stooks at the safety position, and then you said DCAM, yeah. The only thing that he's good at right now is special teams. So you know what I'm saying, you got Hezekiah Masters coming and ready to go. You know what I'm saying? We didn't even talk about the guy that I've been calling old boy McCoy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Gerard
we're going to get
McCoy.
into those guys in a minute. But go ahead.
He's definitely a guy that is a piece that is added to that secondary. So a lot of people are put on notice specifically in that secondary room.
Yeah, I feel that as well. So, um, in special teams, right? Our special teams has been horrible when it comes to kickoff returns, punt returns, tackling. I feel like a lot of these guys, right? I'm looking at Chase Roberts. I'm looking at Tanner Wall. I'm looking at Devin Lafayette, right? I'm looking at a lot of these guys who are quick, are solid tacklers, know football, have a great knowledge of football, and can start on special teams and work their way onto the roster, like a guy like Tanner Wall or Devin Lafayette. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of these guys end up sneaking on the roster and they end up moving some guys. From the offensive line, what we got 8, 9 guards right now. I believe they keep 9. Unless you have 3 guys that can play all positions, then maybe you only keep 8 guys on the offensive line, which usually it's 9. I don't see too many teams keeping 8, but there's a possibility that you could also keep 8 guys on the offensive line. When you have guys like you know JPJ and Caleb Rogers that can move around, Charles Grant if he can play both sides, right, and then you have Kuhn, Trey Zune as well. So lots of versatility, but future stars, man, future stars. Who do you see breaking out? Wait, did I show this or not? Yeah. So next topic is um, I don't know why it says starters, but future starters emerging in Vegas, right? We just talked about some of those guys: Hezekiah Masses, Zeke Masses, right? That Cal Berkeley guy from the East Bay, well, not from the East Bay, but played in the East Bay. Um, kind of knows the culture over there and what it's like. But I'm sure we were already gone when he got there. But just the culture of the city over there, right? I think he brings a lot to this team. And then Devin Lafayette, I think, is another one of those guys that can. So, um, but rising stars, merging the stars. Who do you feel like in Kubiak's offense, or on the defense? Not Rob Leonard. Who do you feel like is a guy that you could see having a huge breakout this season under Kubiak or Rob Leonard?
I'm gonna go back to who I was really excited about, and that's old boy McCoy. I think the injury situation and that I think they look past that and they gonna let this guy run, and we know it's not, and maybe it doesn't really fully apply because it's really not a guy that's going to emerge. I think that this guy is him.
Yeah,
I think he's really that corner. You know what I'm saying? It's just, he definitely is going to emerge on the NFL level. You know what I'm saying? But I think who he is, what we saw on tape, that's him. You know what I'm saying? Even with his bone injury, you know what I'm saying, in his knee or whatever, how is he still running a 4.3? You know what I'm saying? Like stuff like that, like
yeah,
you don't, that stuff speaks well, and I think he's definitely a guy that's going to show, a jokes on the NFL for not picking me up, you know what I'm saying, before the Raiders were able to get me in the 4th round. Um looking even further, I people don't talk about Hezekiah Masses. I think Hezekiah Masses is a guy um that's going to definitely be a force. I don't think people are talking about him enough. In regards to the corner position, we're thirsty at corner. Everybody talking about we were thirsty for a quarterback, and people were really thirsty for a quarterback. But I think we were even just as thirsty at corner. You know what I'm saying? So I think Hezekiah Masses coming in is definitely going to be a piece to definitely look out for. Mike Washington is somebody that I definitely liked in the running back room. But I don't know, because I think Genty's putting it out there that he wants as many snaps as he can, and Kubiak has put out there that yes, I'm gonna run the heck out of Genty. So we'll see how many snaps, you know what I'm saying, Mike Washington gets. Now Hemby, I think Hemby is definitely going to push Lauby out of here. I get, look, as much as people love Dylan Lauby, I'm one of those guys that's like, hey, I don't even know why we kept using him on special teams if he has issues with, you know what I'm saying, keeping the ball in his hands. You know what I'm saying? And Hemby is proven to have, he has ball security. So he definitely can be that running back 3 for us because he has special team, abilities too. So, that's a guy that I'm looking at too, undrafted that might emerge and show himself definitely on special teams, but he may, surprise us and definitely be that third running back.
Yeah, mine. I'm gonna go Trey Tucker, man. I'm gonna go Trey Tucker. I think Trey Tucker has a chance to
Good
do
call.
something that I don't think but one um 5'8" receiver in the history of the NFL has done. Right? I think there's only one. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, which I can't see it anyways, but my guy Twuan can see it. But I believe there's only one wide receiver 5'8" or smaller to have 1,000 yards in a season, right? So when you look at Trey Tucker and you look at the amount of targets he had last year, he was targeted 96 times, I want to say, or 92 times, and caught 56 of them. Right? That's you got to do better. But then you look at the situation of 62 sacks at on your quarterback, right? Who was throwing him the ball, um, all that situation. So if you have if you have Mendoza with Trey Tucker, man, if Mendoza starts day one, I believe Trey Tucker has over 1,000 yards. I'm gonna call that right now. If Mendoza starts by week 3 or 4, I see Trey Tucker and Brock both having 1,000 yards because I see those being the main targets. And if you just look at Kubiak's offense and the way it runs, he has those guys that he draws up plays for. And we talked about JSN going from 700 yards to 1,700 yards the following season, right? Being that guy, not being the X, not being the number one guy, but being a guy that they move out of the backfield. He's playing the Z, he's playing the slot, off the line, on the line. He's that guy in trips, right? He's pretty much all over. They run him out of the backfield. And, I think Trey Tucker and Brock can both be those guys, right? Not just, I hear a lot of talk about, oh, Brock's going to be the next JSN. And, he had 100 targets his rookie season. I believe he could have, the same amount of targets as JSN, which I think was 117 targets or something like that, I want to say. But yeah, if you can give Brock, if this defense could be good enough to get the ball in the offensive hands where you could give Brock 100 targets and, Trey Tucker 80 something targets, man, I think both of these guys could be better than they were. Definitely Brock. I don't know if it'd be a breakout year because it's going to be hard to match his rookie year when he was that guy. But I'm really anxious to see if Trey Tucker emerges as that guy. Brock's going to get a lot of double team, right? You're not going to double team Trey Tucker too much. You're going to have Brock. You got to focus on the running back and Ashton Genty. Then if Jack Besh is out there with his size and his physicality, you have to focus on Jack Besh. I think this gives Trey Tucker a lot of one-on-ones. And, if he can just come down with some of those, that he didn't come down with last year, I believe he can be 1,000-yard receiver in this offense.
Yeah, I'm high on Trey Tucker. A lot of people are opposing that, but I think Trey Tucker is definitely a guy that if you get him in space, he's a very dangerous person. And I think with Kubiak and the way that Kubiak runs his scheme in the passing game, he's gonna scheme. The scheme is going to allow for some of these guys to get a lot of run after the catch, and that goes right to Trey Tucker. And I think Trey Tucker was put in one box. You know what I'm saying? He was put in a box where all he does is stretch the field. He's just going to run the 9 route and the post. I think this season he's going to be running a whole lot of different routes because he has evolved his game to actually be a better pass catcher and run routes better. So I think definitely that's going to complement what I'm saying, the overall team. I think when you put a guy like Speedy Naylor out there with Trey Tucker, and then you got Brock Bowers out there. There's a lot of things that can happen, and again, you catch Trey Tucker on a slant, or you catch him in a place where he's catching the ball on the run. You know what I'm saying? He's not just, catching the ball and then got to take off. No, he's catching the ball while he's in transition. If we got quarterbacks that can get it to him, I think it's going to be a problem. And I think Kubiak sees that. I think that's why Kubiak, if you've been listening to all these press conferences and stuff that Kubiak has been bringing out, he been here goes me talking about preaching. He's been preaching Trey Tucker, and he's also been sneakily preaching Aiden O'Connell. And I'm not saying that Aiden O'Connell is going to be the starter, but definitely he's looking at him for something that he's relying on him in regards to this offense. So whether it's backup or whatever the situation may be, so there's definitely something there. Going back to Trey Tucker, that Kubiak is definitely liking in his game.
Yeah, and I think it's the speed, right? They asked him who he compared him to that he's worked with, and a lot of people said it was Rashid Rashid Shaheed with the
Uh,
speed. Definitely doesn't have the size, right? A couple inches taller, but definitely has the same type speed. But I just don't feel like, I guess both of them. I don't know. I feel like Trey Tucker, it works and evolves on his game, right? Every year he's got better at a certain aspect. And I hope this year is just creating separation and then finishing the catch, man. Just finishing it. Like a
uh,
lot of times, right? A lot of times he doesn't, like you said, he's not catching the ball on the run. If it's an out route and it's over his head, he's diving for it instead of, trying to use the speed to run underneath it. Like, stop leaving your feet to catch the ball. Just stay on the ground, stay on your feet, let the ball come to your hands and make plays. But they're gonna have to, scheme him up. I don't think he's very elusive in the, open field or in space. So in tight areas, right, in space, you can't catch him. But if they can get him in space, like you said, I think he's gonna be an awful big problem. So top five, man. Who are your top five? And then I'll just give you mine, and then you can come up with yours. But I think like you said, the biggest one, right? You got Jamon McCoy at the fourth round, first pick in the fourth round. If he just gets on the field, he doesn't even have to start, right? If he's just playing in nickel and dime packages, right? Or, you know, playing on, man press coverages or whatever it is, just start him out there slowly. He doesn't have to, come out and be that guy. So I feel like the Raiders got an absolute steal if he plays this year. Drafted him in the fourth round, right? You didn't give up a whole lot. You moved up one spot, to get him. They had 3 fourth round picks, so it's not a lot that way. And then if this guy could just stay on the grass, we already know he's one of the best corners, in this draft. Didn't even play last year and was still one of the best corners in the draft. So taking all that away, they got him out there running punt returns right now, which, golly, have you seen him catching any of those punt returns? He's like Trey Tucker. Every punt return, he's jumping in the air and like trying to make sure he got his leg up or something to make sure he catches it. So I think that they did the same thing with Ashton Genty last year, and he never ran punt returns. Right? They put him out there to get his vision, or I don't know, let him try to get catching the ball in the air or something. I don't know what they're trying to do or what the point of that is, but they did the same thing with Genty, acting like he was going to run kickoff returns. He never did, but um, I just don't think that's being. I don't see that as being his spot, right? You're not going to put a guy out there and let him run kickoff or punt returns that has a knee injury that has a plug in it, right? That's the last thing you want him to do is get tackled. So it's bad enough you got to have him tackle, and hopefully he could just pick off every pass comes his way, and he don't have to tackle nobody. But if anybody could do it, it's that guy. But so I got Jamon McCoy. I think has a breakout year. Of course, we talked about Jack Bash. Um, and then Ashton Genty, right? I don't know, 1,000 yards for a rookie year. I think is very solid, but I think he goes well over that. I would very, very be surprised, if healthy, if he's not around the 1,600 yard, total yards from scrimmage, whether it's rushing and receiving, and probably 15 touchdowns instead of 10 this year, right? I think he's going to be the workhorse back. I feel like it's going to be a lot more holes, a lot less decisions for him to have to make, right? You just hit the hole and go on the cutback lanes. I think that's going to be a difference. You can't tackle them. So I got Best, Jack, McCoy, and then um, offensive line, whether he plays or not, right? I think Caleb Rogers. I don't know what they feel about Caleb Rogers, but I feel like I did last year that he's one of the best guards that they have out there. So I hope he takes the next step and gets on the grass, but then that leaves, somebody out in the mix. And then the last guy is what we talked about Trey Tucker, we talked about Besh. Um, that last guy is
Hezekiah Masses.
Yeah, I think Hezekiah Masses is. I don't know. I feel like with him and McCoy, that's nasty, right? That's nasty with his ball instincts, right? Solid, pretty decent tackler, not the greatest tackler, but good ball still instincts, right? Can cover very well, good hip movement, very fluid. Has the length, has all that. Um, so I want to say Hezekiah Masses, but if Hezekiah Masses is that guy and McCoy is that guy, where does this leave Darian Porter?
Third corner.
You think keep him around and just let him develop because he has the height, the speed,
He
the size. He
yeah,
has everything too. He's just green. So you
that's
feel like
and
there's a
that's
you feel
it.
like there's a scenario where maybe one of these guys leapfrog him from the jump.
It might be a situation where Porter does slide, and I'll say this because when you look at when you look at our depth chart, and saying in regards to our corner room, Stokes is there, right? So Stokes is on one side. I'm just gonna say McCoy's gonna be on the other side. Okay, it would be Porter, but hey, Masses is there. So if Masses jumps Porter, hey, Porter might be the fourth corner because again, like you said, Porter does have everything that you want. He has the athleticism, he has the speed, he has the size, but again, he's green. So it might be, you know, it might be a red shirt, extra red shirt year. You know what I'm saying? Like
Extra
his
red
second,
shirt.
yeah, his second year might be another red shirt because again, the best corners are going to play. We already know that with this coaching staff, they're not going to play. They're not going to put projects out there if they don't have to put them out there. So Porter could be that. I hate to say it like this, but Porter might be the decam until he gets it right.
Yeah, just playing special teams and doing that. See, because DCam had that role and had that opportunity to be special teams, and he never showed out, right? And he's got that 4.3 speed as well, right? So, like he just didn't seem to take that next step or show that he wanted to be that guy on special teams. So, I think that's a problem for him, and then not being drafted this regime, but Darian Porter, that it leaves a question because we all know he's got the speed, the
And I
height, and
like Porter. Don't
but
get
we
it
all know he's
twisted.
got the
Yeah.
height and the length to. It's hard to say, was that a Pete Carroll pick? Was that a Spy Tech guy? Because I don't see Spy. I mean, if you look at Spy Tech the way we've drafted, a lot of the guys have been development guys. So I wouldn't put it past him, taking a guy like Stokes. I mean, like Porter, but a lot of people seem to think that was a Pete Carroll pick.
I think Porter was, you know what I'm saying, when you look at his measurables and he really looks like he fits that. I mean, it's almost like a carbon copy of the Seahawks, you know what I'm saying, defense of corners, you know what I'm saying? So I think, with Porter, it might be a decam situation where, he plays special teams until he gets it right, but hey, we ain't gonna wait until you get it. We ain't gonna wait until you get it right. We just gonna hold you onto this roster until your rookie contract comes up, or unless we keep flooding that room again with corners and you just are out of here. So I'm hoping Porter steps it up. I hope that Porter, what I'm saying, gets, because he did take some lumps last year. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to take that away from him. He did get some lumps last year. So there's some learning experiences from that he could have, you know what I'm saying? He could take a step, but if you asking me, Porter between Porter and Jamal McCoy's on the opposite side of Stokes. The only person right now that's safe at corner is Stokes. You know what I'm saying? Because he's the veteran corner. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, the real competition is the opposite side of Stokes. So I'm taking Jamal McCoy and then Porter's coming in behind that. But like I said, Massa's got something to say about that too.
Well, right now on every roster, they have McCoy behind Eric Stokes on that side.
Mm.
That's where they have him listed,
Okay.
which doesn't really mean anything. That's just where most have
Yeah.
him listed. So, maybe they don't put him out there day one, but if he's the best guy, as they keep preaching, the best guys will play, right? You got to think if he's healthy, he's probably the best corner out there. I see him being better than just having more experience. I don't know if he's better than Porter, but experience wise. But then you've got, Porter's got a year in the NFL, so he's going to be ahead on the NFL level and the speed of the game, right? It's going to take McCoy another year to catch on to that. So, and then you got Teron Johnson that's not been out there. So you have that aspect of guys, that could be pushed farther and farther down for, not showing up or, we'll see, but they're not learning the playbook, right? It's not, you're not going to get in trouble because you're not there. It's just the fact that you're missing, valuable time with this team of being out there through these, couple days and learning the defense and playing 7-on-7s and 11-on-11. So I feel like the depth is there. And then I don't see Porter being a problem or being on that bubble, because if you look at, like you said, there's going to be a lot of times where they're playing that nickel coverage, and maybe when you're in that nickel coverage, you don't want that strong safety to be Jeremy Chin, right? Maybe you want that strong safety to be a guy that can cover in that situation, because maybe it's a 3rd and 10, or a 3rd and 12 or whatever, right? Third and 7, 3rd and 15, right? Maybe it's a deep passing down and you don't want Jeremy Chin on the field, so maybe you put that strong safety as whoever, Dalton Johnson, or you bring in Terry and Stooks, and then you have guys like Hezekiah Masses who could play that nickel or possibly play in the slot, and all of them could move around and I think play the safety position, which I'm sure they'll all learn. So I think it's valuable to have all 5 of those guys on the roster, and I wouldn't be surprised if they can't end up keeping 7 defensive backs just to have these guys, which takes a spot away from another position.
Yeah, I mean that'd be a stretch to. I think 7. That'd definitely be a stretch. I think 6, and then I think you're gonna have to. Yeah, you're. Yeah, they're gonna have to because that's gonna be interesting if they took 7. I'll just say it like that.
Or at least, more than likely it's going to be 6, but 2 on the practice squad. But
Oh
if
yeah,
you have 7 guys that a guy that you don't want to put on the practice squad, that you don't want to get picked up, right? Because I mean, if you look at it, it's pretty deep, and then the safety room, it's not, there's not a lot of safeties there, but some of these guys that can play corner and safety and play that nickel role as well. So I think the more positions you play, the more valuable you are. And there might be some of those guys in that secondary where they're like, man, we can't put them on. You know what I mean? We can't let them go. We can't let them go. We can't put them on the practice squad because somebody's going to take them. So they might have to move that around. And then you have the 3-4. Maybe they keep one defensive lineman because they feel like they're going to be in a lot different sets, or a lot more nickel packages or dime packages, right? Maybe they keep one less of those guys. So it'll be interesting, man, because for first time in a long time, the roster seems to be a lot a lot deeper at, at a lot of positions. Last year, I was like, this guy, it was a couple guys here and there. But this year, man, looking at the roster, I'm just like, God, there's a lot of guys that could step up. There's a lot of guys that could take a next step, right? There's a lot of guys that could be way ahead of the curve when it comes to rookies, and you'd be like, man, why pay this guy $6 million to do this job when I have a rookie, that's doing it for less than a mil or around a mil, right?
Yeah. Salute to everybody in the chat. I see you guys talking. We definitely moving and grooving over here. You know what I'm saying? Raider Menace is in the building. Candy is in the building. Who else? I can't scroll up. I'm on a new format. But salute to everybody in the chat. Make sure you guys hit that like button. You know what I'm saying? If you guys are on a mobile device, definitely double tap that screen. Appreciate you guys.
Let's see if I can see the chat this way. Aha! I can't see it this way. All right, that's weird. So I can only see the chat. My phone is up and down.
Okay, well, hey, do whatever, however you gotta do it, man.
Nice.
I'm not tripping. I know some people are picky about that. That you gotta have it the right. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on now, let's just talk football, and you know what I'm saying. So you might see something in the chat. Shout out to D Menace. You know what I'm saying? Deacon D Menace in the building. Good to see you.
D Menace, Jack Ken in the building. Raider Knight. Appreciate all y'all. Yeah, I was slacking. I didn't know I could turn my phone like this. But yeah, shout out to y'all showing up, showing out. Appreciate y'all. What is Night Boss? It means.
Oh, that's me.
Oh, nice. Yeah, awesome. I was like, what is the Nightbot? I don't have a Nightbot.
Yeah, in my chat, there's a
No,
I have.
Yeah.
I
shout out to D Menace. I'm sure D Menace dropped your link in there. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I see it. All right, nice. Shout out. Appreciate D Menace always running the chat. Yeah, man. So I don't know how much time you have. I don't know how long you wanna.
You if you got another topic, we can run it. If you don't, it's all good, man.
Yeah. So expectations and leadership role of Max Crosby, right? They planned on trading him away. Did they have guys that they felt could be that leadership? Be that leader in the building, take that leadership role. And then, Max Crosby comes back. So what are your expectations of Max? Like for me, I haven't really seen a lot of guys develop under his tutelage, right? There's not really a lot of guys that you could say, damn, since they've been, working with Max Crosby, these guys are, they're cleaning house or, right? This dude is ready to be a starter. He's ready to be a 3-down guy. So there hasn't really been a lot of that, right? So what is your expectations of Max Crosby's leadership impact, coming back? And do you feel like, it could end up being a problem with some of these guys trying to take the leadership role? Because last year, we seen them arguing with Landon Roberts, E-Rob, right? We seen them getting into it with Devin White. Were those football issues, right? Were those, leadership issues? We don't know. Were the guys stepping up, saying things they shouldn't have said, and he didn't like what they said, So what do you feel like with Max coming back and his leadership expectations?
I'm not asking for Max Crosby to be a leader. I need him to just be a leader in sacks. I need the quarterback to go down, and the quarterback needs to go down hard.
Go down hard, yes.
And
sir.
he needs to go down in totality of this season. He needs to have double-digit sacks. I'm tired of seeing Max Crosby hanging around that 10-9, range of sacks, and we're paying $100 million for a guy that's supposed to be him. You know what I'm saying? When I think of him, I think about guys that are sacking the quarterback 15 times. I'm thinking about quarterbacks. I'm thinking about pass rushers that are like Myles Garrett that are sacking people 20 times a year. Right. So with that being said, I need more sacks. Tackles for loss, yes, that's wonderful. I love you. Let's give you a golf clap on that. But no, I need you to sack the quarterback. So if If you're not being, obviously your leadership is going to be you in the gym, you know what I'm saying, lifting those weights at whatever time you, the crack of dawn, because obviously you say you're the first one in there, and people say you're the first one in there, so that's your leadership. But beyond that, I need double digit sacks, and I'm not saying 10, I need close to 15.
Woohoo! Damn, 15.
Enough is enough.
I
We're
mean,
spending
for
money on this.
36 million, for 32 plus $1 million, I feel you. Enough is enough, right?
How,
So,
how much are we spending on, you know what I'm saying, for him to say he's close to TJ Watt? How much are we spending for someone that says they're close to Myles Garrett? And what are their sack totals? You
right?
know,
Yeah. In
and
the
let
20s, in
and,
the 20s, yeah.
let's keep it a buck. You know what I'm saying? Like who's a better sack person, Hendrickson or Max Crosby? I would say Hendrickson, and the
Yeah,
numbers are
I mean,
proven.
I mean, yeah, if you look at Henderson's numbers, but you also got to look at, I don't think he gets double teamed near as much as Max Crosby. I think that's, a huge thing. And also, Max Crosby has been playing injured the last 3 years. I think that's a huge thing for him. He says, he's 100% and he's healthy, but he's just a warrior. He's just a machine that's not going to give up. He's going to give it his all no matter what. But I feel you, man. $32 million. At one point, you was the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL, and you're producing 9, 10 sacks, right? Like you said, I get it. Right? Tackles for a loss are great, right? All that's good. Pressures on the quarterback are good, but pressures to me are just failed sacks, right? You got there and you didn't, right? You got there, you made them, juke you or throw the ball, before you got to him. So I'm with you on that, man. And
Oh, and don't forget the
the
missed tackle.
yeah, the missed tackles, the overrunning the plays, right? The shooting past the quarterback and then the dude running for 30, 40 yards down the field because now your gap containment is lost and the guy just goes to your side and runs down the field because there's nobody over there to stop him, right? And we haven't had the speed to catch up and do anything about it. So yeah, man, I feel you on that. I think he has to do a lot, but we've heard the excuses made for Max Crosby, and it's hilarious that you can't talk about any facts about a guy, and people say you make excuse for him, but then you show facts about Max Crosby, and you're dogging Max Crosby. So the excuses have been made for Max for many many years when it comes to being healthy, staying on the field, being that leader, the production of the guys around him, right? And then there's always that, well, he doesn't have the team, right? Who's he have at linebacker? Who else does he have on the defensive line? You don't have guys that can cover. I think all that's gone out the window this year, right? And this year, I think, is the biggest year for Max Crosby to show he is that guy. He is the best or one of the best, defensive ends because I think that title passed him up a couple years ago when you brought in guys like, Will Anderson and Micah Parsons, and right, they just keep getting younger and faster and stronger. And I feel like he's keeps dropping down and down and down, but he still keeps getting that money. So I feel like also you have guys that in practice are going to be those guys and contend with the motor, right? We heard our coaches talk about Brock Bowers, right? If it's an hour practice, he gives you 110% for an hour, right? If it's 30 minutes, he's giving you all he's got for 30 minutes, right? Ashton Genty the same way. So you're starting to see a trend where, he's not the only one in the building doing that. And I feel like it's a make it or break it year for Max Crosby, right? This is the last year of guaranteed money, and people can say what they want to, but history shows every time Max has been, the last year of his guaranteed money, he's got a new contract. I feel like this year you're gonna have to prove something to get that contract. I just don't feel like the Raiders will be like, yeah, we'll throw you another guaranteed money, knowing your need, right? Knowing your history, right? Knowing your game history. I just feel like he's one of those guys that has a lot more to prove everybody. So the leadership role, I see that, but you got no excuses. You're gonna have guys that are gonna take the double team away from you. You got guys that can cover in the back end, right? You got linebackers that are gonna be right behind you, cleaning up the mess. So I think the excuses are done, and we have to definitely double digits. I mean, what he's had 1 year, 14 and a half sacks. The rest have been 10 or less.
Yep. There
Yeah.
there
So
was and I said this I probably last season. I think I when I looked at it, I think it was like half of his career were double digits, which means like 10. You know what I'm saying? Like half of your for this guy to like I said, for this guy to be him, for this guy to be the best pass rusher in the NFL that people are saying and throwing out there, half of your seasons you were double digits in sacks. I don't see it. And I
yeah,
know and I know sacks are just one metric of what you're looking for in your defensive line, but that's how your defensive linemen, you know what I'm saying, especially your defensive ends, that's how they make their money. It's not if we wanted someone to stop the run, then we would just get a nose tackle.
right. Yeah, that's what defensive linemen are for. So I agree with that, right? The tackles for a loss, yeah, all that's great, but most of those times, it's offside ball where somebody's stopping and holding the guy up, and he's coming from the backside and making those tackles, right? It's not a lot of them just on his side. When they run to his side, he misses a lot of tackles, right? When they run right at him, right, it's most of those are coming from the backside, clean up tackles and stuff like that, tackles for a loss. So dude says y'all don't even like the defensive line and you want Max to beat the odds. No, when you're paid the highest paid player in the NFL as a non-quarterback, you should beat the odds, but you should have already had the odds beat before you got that money, and he never did. So, the money wise, it's not my money. I don't care. I'm not paying for it. But when you have one of the highest paid players on your roster in the NFL that isn't producing like a highest paid player in the NFL, sack wise, I mean, I know the tackles for a loss and all that's there. Pressures are okay, but his pressure win rate is it's come on, it's not even. I don't even think it's top 10 right now, right? So that's a lot of money that you're taking away from guys that could be making $10 million at a position instead of a guy that you have to pay $1 million because you have to pay max $36 million. You know what I mean?
Name me a player on the Browns defensive line outside of Miles Garrett. I'll wait.
The one they just drafted 2 years ago. What's his name? I don't know. I don't know his name. The one every Raider fan, pretty much all the Raider fans were wanting.
So, like, I understand. Yes, there is that it's a team game. You know what I'm saying? It's a team effort, but there comes a point where your star player needs to be a star. All, every,
Yeah.
every, all these other top pass rushers, they get double too,
Yes, sir. And they
but they
still
still
find a
get
way
it
to
done.
win. Yeah, and that's my complaint. I'm there with you too. Is how many games do you not even see Max Crosby or notice he's even out there? Right? Like you don't even. Yes, there's some games where you don't even see him until the fourth quarter when the offensive line is beat up and it's a blowout and we're down by 21 points and oh, here comes Max with a sack, like meaningless sacks or meaningless tackle for a loss. So there's a lot of that too that people don't notice or just don't bring up that there's a lot of his plays there in garbage time in the fourth quarter because he don't come out of the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Max was a fourth rounder. We've seen his best days. Hopefully, that's not the case. Hopefully, he has better days ahead. Right? He says the knee surgery is going to be good to go. It's going to be, the greatest season he's ever had. We hear that every year, and I hope not for his sake, but for Raider Nation's sake, man, for Raider Nation's sake, because if Max is that guy, then that means this defense should be pretty solid.
And that's the, that's definitely the fingers crossed. I've been saying it since, since the trade debacle and all that stuff that went on. I was like, let's be honest, Max Crosby is on one leg. So we need to, and that's why people were like, why are we trading him? Like, you better trade him now while he has value, because again, knock on wood again, what happens if Max Crosby leg goes through something again?
Well, I mean, it has
You're
every
not going
it
you're
has
you're
every
you're
year
not going
though.
to get
Right?
anything.
It has every year for the last, whether it's an ankle, whether it's a knee, once you have something in your knee that's life threatening, if you don't have surgery to to fix the problem, that's a problem, right? That's a
Mm-hmm.
problem. I think that deteriorates your career and your leg, right? The cartilage in your knee, all of that. So you can, and then the fact that why are they calling it just a cleanup when there's doctors coming out saying he didn't have a cleanup? He had a cleanup, he had a repair, then another cleanup. Like it wasn't just one surgery. He went back two or three times that they're saying. So there's that as well. Like just a normal cleanup is you're just trying to, get rid of all the fat tissue or whatever that builds up around it. But it was one and then another one. So yeah, that knee is not good at all. And then the fact that he wants to play 90% of the time, I think just doesn't help. If he could just limit himself, right? Do you think that's not so do you think we have um enough players on this defense and defensive line where he doesn't have to play 90% of the snaps this year?
We do, but he won't.
We do, but he won't. Like
I'm
that.
just saying, like we do got enough. I think we
I
do got
agree.
enough people to create a rotation. But is really Max Crosby going to come off the field? Like you're, and I've said this, and I'm not being I'm being honest, but being not trying to be mean, but being honest.
Yeah,
Like just go ahead and run Max Crosby leg into the ground, because obviously that's what he wants to do.
yeah. I mean,
It's
you would
it, it's
think
it's
that.
going it's going to be a situation where Max Crosby's going to be out there. Something's going to happen to his leg, and then all of a sudden we're talking about Max Crosby's retiring.
Yeah, I mean, he's been told by the great Howie Long. He's been told by Rich Gann.
Yeah,
He's been told by Charles Woodson, right? He's been told by all these players, Max, if you want to make longevity, bro, you're gonna have to limit your snap count,
he,
and
he ain't got
and
to play first down.
he just won't do it. All that wants to be great and wants to win a Super Bowl, but you can't do that if you're not on the field. So, like you given all this 8 years to this team of playing 90% of the snaps for a losing team, and now we have a solid team around you. How much what percentage of Max Crosby are we gonna get? Right, 98, 90, 90. 85. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like for so many years, we got 120% of Max Crosby, right? Whether he was broken hand, no matter what he played, and no matter what, he's still gonna play, no matter what, right? But how much was that, gonna catch up to him quicker than not? And that sucks for him. That sucks for us. That sucks for the team. It sucks all the way around. That a guy that could have just 10 less snaps a game, or 15 less. You know what I mean? Because what was it last time he got hurt, right? The Baltimore game, was it the end of there was less than 2 minutes in that game? I do believe there was less than 2 minutes of that game, and he was chasing around Lamar Jackson and jacked up his knee, right? And then missed almost that whole season off and on, right? So it just, why are you out there in 2 minutes in a game that like, yes, it was coming down to the end, but I think we had that game wrapped up. Right? It's like,
He needs to be in on every passing down. You know what I'm saying? 3rd and 15. Obviously, they're gonna pass the ball. You know what I'm saying? 12. You know what I'm saying? Second and 12. You know what I'm saying? Like most likely they're going to be passing the ball. Like that's how you shave some time off of Max Crosby. Like you know what I'm saying, and preserve him. Like And that's what needs to happen. Like, stop feeling like you got to be out there every single down, every single play. And we know you got the motor. We know that, you could run all game, but
Yeah.
your body's telling you that you can't run all game. It's not that you ain't got the stamina to you know what I'm saying, the cardio. You got the cardio, but the rest is falling apart. And that's as honest as I can be. So again, if he's going to be gung ho about it, what we need to do as an organization is we need to start drafting D linemen that are ready to replace him.
I feel you.
Because we don't need to be in a position where Max Crosby goes down and then we're like, what the heck do we got at DN?
I
We
think
can't.
that's what the Crawford pick was, right?
Well, I mean that's a running mate. I hate to say it like that because can we really trust Kuntz? Stooks, not Stooks, but Snowden is out the door.
Yeah. Y'all know what you
Quiddy
got.
Pay. I
Jafari
mean,
Harvey.
we brought Quiddy Pay in. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
I mean,
Quiddy
we
Pay
got
might
some
be opposite side, but then Crawford's 3. But outside of that, what are we looking at long term?
a lot of wait and see. I
Two or
mean,
three
I
years.
really like Jafari Harvey. I like I like the Tonka Hemingway that they brought in, right? 4 sacks in 5 games last year. So when he's on the grass, he makes a big difference. He's a problem out there. So we have the pieces. They just need to develop them and they need to get grass time. You also have Trevin Maye, who had a very solid, college career, a physical guy that, can take on double teams, can get to the quarterback. He's physical. He's quick and agile for his size. So there's a lot of pieces. They just last year and the year before we didn't get to see any of these pieces. That if you were a rookie, you didn't get on the grass.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So, um, yeah, that's about all I got. And then I guess the last one is Ashton Genty, right? There's a lot of talk
Mm.
about Ashton Genty. Some people think he wasn't worth that sixth overall pick, and a lot of people just disagree with drafting guys in the first round. But Ashton Genty, hype and sophomore expectations, right? I think I got that somewhere here. I'll just show it. I did that one already. Max. Um, yeah. So if you have any, what's your expectations for Ashton Genty?
Continue to be him. I think the elevation of Ashton Genty is going to be predicated on the pieces around him. It's really going to be based on how this offensive line solidifies itself. I don't really think there's going to be much improvement to ultimately skill wise in Ashton Genty's game. I think the numbers will improve based on how well this offensive line is. And I think that's what Kubiak was talking about in his introductory presser in regards to Ashton Genty, because they asked about Ashton Genty and he was like, well, we got to make sure that what I'm saying, the pieces around Ashton Genty are right. So if we can get that right, I think he'll have better numbers than he already had, which I think he did an amazing job. What I'm saying, numbers wise, based on the production of our offensive line. As many times as I've seen him personally get hit behind the line of scrimmage. So Ashton Genty is definitely going to have a great season, not only with the elevation of the offensive line, but also the number of snaps that he's going to get and touches that obviously Kubiak said that he's going to give him. So he's going to get a lot of production. So I think the numbers are going to show exactly that.
Yeah, I feel you on that. Just looking at his production with the way this offensive line was, as bad as the quarterback play was, as bad as the receiving was, I mean, just just look at JSN from Seattle. He had more yards receiving than our entire receiving core last year. That's that's pathetic. So you have no deep threat, no number one threat, right? You got no threat from any position, whether it's the slot, whether it's the outside, other than the tight end position. So you have no passing threat. You have no quarterback threat because the dude was sacked 62 times, and it seemed like he was sacked 5 times a game. So teams knew that. Just put pressure on Geno Smith, and this team was nothing, right? You got to get it. How many times did he just fold up and fall down, where he didn't even try to run or try to make a play, or he just curled up in a ball, like just curl up in a little ball and be like, "Oh, just fall down, don't hit me, Chad." So, I think quarterback play, offensive line pay, it's going to be night and day for Ashton Genty. I just feel like somehow he gets more carries, whether it's more targets. Probably not more carries. I think the carries will be around the same, probably around that 250 range. But I feel like he gets a lot more receptions out of the backfield. I think he had 50. I want to say 56 last year. So I wouldn't be surprised if that number goes up, if the rushing targets go up a little bit more. If you're up in some games and you want to run the clock, right? Which I feel like we can be. And we seen Seattle do that last year, right? You get a lead and then you just run the football, right? With those monsters, and you just eat up a bunch of clock. So I feel like his numbers go up. I don't have any expectations. I would like him to be around 12, 1,300 yards. I think that's definitely doable in a Kubiak system with almost having 1,000 last year, and then the touchdowns. I'd like to see a lot more on the ground, right? 5 touchdowns rushing is okay, but if you can give me 10 touchdowns on the ground with 12, 1,300 yards, I think that's a successful sophomore season. And I heard a lot of talk about he wasn't a game changer, right? But if you look at our touchdowns, and I don't have the stats because I don't have internet, but I think Ashton Genty was almost a third of the Raiders' touchdowns last season with 10. So I don't know how you say he's not an impact player. Now, how can you not be an impact player when you have 10 touchdowns? And I don't even know how many we scored last year, but it was not a lot. I mean, it was not a lot. We didn't score a lot of points. It was not a lot of touchdowns. So he's definitely an impact player when when you're that explosive, when you can have some of the runs and the catches that he had and breaking tackles, right, running over guys. I think he's a huge impact player, and we're going to see a bigger impact from him next year. And then you throw in Mike Washington, right? You got Mike Washington, who, depending on his carries, but I think his carries depends on his production, right? If you're doing well, if you're getting explosive plays, right? If you're picking up yards every time you touch the ball, your carries are going to go up.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, that's what I got. Appreciate you coming on. Let
Oh
everybody
man.
know what you got going on, where they can find you, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, man. First of all, I appreciate you for reaching out, and it's always good talking Raider football. So hit me up anytime. Because I'm always willing to talk about this team that I love. Definitely, you guys here. Um, Raider Twuan on YouTube. Go ahead and get active with that. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead and subscribe. It's completely free to do. I will be at you guys probably next week with something. So definitely stay tuned for that. I do put out shorts, so always stay tuned for that. Make sure you hit that notification bell because I do go live at random. You know what I'm saying? And I give you guys what I call that Raider gospel. You know what I'm saying? And that's just my take. That's how I'm feeling about what's going on with the Raiders. So, my opinion, you know what I'm saying? So I definitely do my best to dive in, do the homework, do the work. You know what I'm saying? I got my little, actually, I got it right here, my little handy dandy notebook. I'll be writing stuff down, you know what I'm saying? Keeping things in order so that I could give you the best, you know what I'm saying, possible, content. So come on over to Raider Twuan, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. And again, like I say all the time, you're a blessing. Be a blessing to someone else.
Right. Appreciate you, my brother, and you're a blessing as well, and you are a blessing to others. So we appreciate you pulling up. We appreciate you gracing us with the Raider Gospel, preaching that truth, because over here, that's what we like to do. We try to preach truth. We don't try to make stuff up or get anybody to bite on any opinions or change their mind. We just try to preach facts and give a little bit of opinion on the team we love as well. So man, always nice having people over there, and you know like they say, it takes two to make things go right, right? So shout out to Rob Bass, who I believe passed away, I think today, right? So moment of silence for my brother. And if you want to say anything on that, um, losing a lot of people lately, man. It seems like every time you turn around, somebody famous is falling off. So crazy, crazy, crazy world we live in. But yeah, man, a lot of people grew up on Rob Bass. So
You have I it's interesting to see, um when you go to, um the cemetery, they always, of course, there's, when you look at a tomb, there's always the name, and then the date that they were born. Then there's a dash. Then there's the date that they, passed away, right? Or the year that they passed away, right? And the smallest thing in that information is actually the most important thing. It's really not about the day that they were born or the year that they were born. And it's really not important on the day that they died or the year that they died. But that little dash in the middle is what's the most important thing.
yes, sir.
So while you have breath in your body, while you can still move your arms, while you still have your eyes to see and your ears to hear, don't worry about the beginning. Don't worry about the end. Worry about that dash.
Right, what
What
you do
can
in the
you do
middle.
right now to make an impact?
Facts, absolutely, my brother. So again, I appreciate you having me on at any time, man. Anytime you want me to come on the show, we can do that. When I get the internet back, maybe we can have, open the phone lines up or let more people in to talk a little bit more ball. But my internet is getting ate up on my phone right now, unlimited or not. It is not happy. So 2 hours of streaming, and it's been the entertainment purpose for the last 3 days. So yeah, shout out to AT&T for keeping us with no internet for a week. Love it, love it. Thank y'all, thank y'all. But all right, my brother, appreciate you. You have a good one.
Yes, sir. Blessings, man.
Yeah, man. So appreciate everybody in the building. Y'all go over there, subscribe to my man Raider Twuan, show some love. He's trying to get to 1,000, right? Been doing this for a minute. Always great takes. Always very knowledgeable about the game. Let me turn this way so I can see chat. Whoa, what happened to my head? Jeez Louise. Um, but yeah, man. So appreciate y'all for coming to 18 people in here. And as always, protect your mind, self, and family. Sorry I didn't read the chat today, but again, the internet is draining. So appreciate y'all as always. Much love. Peace. Raiders.